My name is Jordan Henshaw.
And my name is Kelly Raybon.
I'm the mechanic.
And I'm the journalist.
Together
we're Try and Prove It.
Someone has been charged with aggravated murder and is facing the death penalty, so we better figure it out, right?
How do we tell the difference between an assertion that is true and an assertion that is false?
You've got to start with all of the evidence, and you don't have all the evidence just yet.
Okay, well, I have no idea. Whoever, but it's a dot.
Where's the dot?
Right there.
Science is not absolute. It doesn't say this is what happened for sure. It says this is the best explanation we have.
3, start sequence. 1. If one picture is worth 1,000 words, one field demonstration is worth 100 internet conspiracy theories. I'm gonna ask something at the risk of, being wrong, okay? But we're all just friends here. We're all just talking.
Well, hello, friends. Hey there, Jordan. How are you tonight?
How are you doing? Hanging in there?
I'm doing good. We've got a great show planned for everyone this evening. So thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to be talking about everything from underground tsunamis to drama in DC. Jordan and I getting to meet each other, the big bad reflecting pool. There's a lot to go over.
And later in the show, we expect to have a special guest, a repeat guest who we've had on the show before, Brian Logue. He's going to be, I'm going to be discussing a lot of work that he's been doing on the idea of the underground tsunami and a lot of the more technical side of the floods that happened to Kelly's family. And we're going to be going into that and into Kelly's story again, like we did on the show not too long ago.
But this time it's going to take it into a whole different level, a lot more technical, and an idea, a concept that most people have not heard of before. So this is definitely one that you're going to want to stick around for.
So without further ado, we both went to DC. There's been a lot of talk recently online about the reflecting pool. What happened was the reflecting pool has had some issues with the reflecting pool. Where is it? It's in Washington, D.C. It's between the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument. Basically, it's a very long, very large pool that's about the size of 6 football fields, kind of stacked on top of each other lengthways. And what happened was it's been leaking a lot for a long time, and it's had algae problems for a really long time. And Trump decided he wanted to fix the leaking problem, and he wanted to do that by adding a liner that's basically a truck bed liner to the bottom of the pool that was supposed to be American flag blue, kind of like my video background here. So they did that, and it was a whole thing that kind of had a news cycle of its own. And 2 weeks later, the algae was absolutely horrible. The whole pool was basically completely green. And that took the news by storm. And you would think that would be the end of it. But what actually happened was the liner, it started peeling up, and chunks of it were floating in the pool. So this has been a condemnation of Donald Trump's legacy, of his character, of his presidency. It's a very visual indicator of, it's a very tangible, visible test or assessment of his competence to the average person. The typical thing that a president does in the day-to-day doesn't have a clear visual of how successful or not successful it was, but this is a very easy thing to see that is a clear failure, right, Kelly?
Yeah, and it's a representative of American pride. And coming up on this 250th anniversary of our country, there has been so much hype about what's going on in DC, and Donald Trump has made it a huge priority to beautify the nation's capital. And But unfortunately, when a project like this turns out so poor so quickly, I think everyone, taxpayers are able to look at this with, a much closer eye and say, my goodness, a no bid contract, $15 million spent. And hold on, the contractor that was responsible for this had previous federal convictions. And I mean, it really is something that people can kind of latch onto, take a closer look at, relate to. And whereas, for instance, like a $1 trillion spending bill or a multi-billion-dollar defense bill is not going to resonate with people in the same way. This is something that is tangible that folks can see and can really criticize, and understandably so.
I'm going to go ahead and play, or maybe not play, but kind of skip through some of the video that we made when we were there. If I get this out of the way here, onto that one. Okay, so this is us together for the first time. That's pretty cool. We live in completely different states. This is this is the color of the water. It does appear blue, but in person it looks more black than blue. And then this was a agitator that I had a conversation with. If you wanted to see this video, you can listen to that conversation. It's basically an agitator who doesn't like Trump and is kind of making the case that we should be pro-algae and kind of stick it in the face of Trump by, kind of accenting the failure, I suppose. But
They then became an agitator of us because we were trying to actually shoot video and have conversations. And the person just started like stuck right behind us and had the loudest yelling voice. She had to have been hoarse the next day because she was so loud.
And what we also did is we also talked to some of the police officers and some of the military people who were there about what the rules were, and if we were allowed to touch the water. We were not allowed to touch the water. We were not allowed to touch the liner. So, but the police officer there, the park police officer we talked to in the video, he says that you can look up the State Park Service compendium or something. And I did look that up. I couldn't find it immediately. But basically, we were not allowed to touch the water. You were not allowed to touch the liner. And we did not do that. But what we wanted to find out, though, was whether or not, when you look at the surface under the water, it looks black, right? And
yes,
so
and it was very interesting to see the various colors and the way that things have shifted. And in fact, even before we were there, apparently the algae was far worse. But they had, gotten to vacuuming, pouring that hydrogen peroxide, adding the bubblers.
Yeah, so we wanted to find out whether or not the black stuff on the bottom was the intended color or if it was algae growth. But we weren't sure because we weren't allowed to touch it. But, you even look at this video here and it does look kind of blue. So, but the important thing that I want people to know is that don't go there expecting to see floating chunks of liner everywhere. There's only like 3 or 4 spots that I found in the daylight. So it's only a few problem areas. But at the same time, like Kelly will remind me, it's 2 weeks after the install. So you have to kind of grade on a curve there. Is it like the entire thing coming up? No, it's only a few spots, but it's very rapidly after. And something I want to point out real fast is that it appears as though, to me, that perhaps the reason it came up was because of inconsistent application. The primer seems like it missed a spot, and the overall thickness of the top coat appeared to vary wildly. So that would point to improper application to me at the surface level. Not a conclusion, that's just my suspicion.
Yes. And I'm actually interested. I do plan to, I just got back from DC, had some computer troubles. There's always something with me, you guys, but I'm piecemealing it together. Anyway, I would like to submit a FOIA or a couple of FOIAs probably, to request some inspection records, things like that, to see if they exist at all. Both my brother and my father both have a ton of experience. Between the two of them, decades on decades of experience when it comes to applying, especially paint, but a variety of different products on surfaces. My brother is a NACE. I think they've changed the name now, but it used to be NACE certified inspector. And so anyway, they are going to help guide me through some of the more technical things to ask about. But both of them said that it was, there's no reason that realistically that liner and the paint and whatnot should be peeling so quickly. Not if it was done appropriately.
Right. And the specific FOIA that we would like to see, or the specific document we would like to see, is when you're going to apply such a large coating all at once with such a large order from the manufacturer, especially on a project of this scale, of this importance, you would expect to have an inspector there, probably multiple inspectors there, watching the work be done to ensure it's done properly. And they should be writing reports that we, the general public, can review to make sure that, as you can see on the screen here, to make sure that the primer was actually applied to the entire surface, to make sure that, I don't have the video in front of me right now, but to make sure that the surface is controlled between cleaning and primer application and top coat application. We don't want to have oily vehicles all over the working surface throughout the entire time. Was that done? Because I've never done something as large as this project before, not even close, but when I'm painting something, I clean it, and then it is a the surface that I've cleaned in preparation for paint is a very special place that is near and dear to my heart. Nobody touches it, nobody looks at it, nobody blows on it, nobody thinks about it. You're not allowed to touch it, you're not allowed to look at it. It is a very special place, and up until the paint is dry to the touch, nobody's allowed to look at it. It's very special. Keep it as clean as possible. But in the video footage we have of the stuff being applied, they just have parks rolling in and out all the time, or trucks rolling in and out all the time. So it makes me wonder how well they controlled the surface as they were applying it. And that's really important for adhesion.
And quite literally, when you talk about rolling out and rolling over, I mean, they had essentially a presidential motorcade roll across it. So, oh gosh, you just have to wonder how closely application instructions and protocol was truly followed, and if those inspection reports were actually conducted and filed, or if, like so many government projects, corners were cut.
Mm-hmm. Especially with the accelerated timeline that we know about. And they wanted it done super, super fast. So that was the trip that we did together to the reflecting pool. And so what is the Try and Prove It channel about? It's not just the Charlie Kirk case. We're going to get into a lot of other stuff. Kelly used to be an investigative reporter, and I want to facilitate that. I certainly like investigating things as well, especially stuff like this that has a technical side and a contextual side, just like the Charlie Kirk case. We make a really good team on that type of reporting. So this is the kind of stuff we're going to be doing in the future, I think, right?
Absolutely. I like that. Reminds me of the logo that we've created, the kind of the yin and the yang, but it fits together. I think it's very symbolic as to what our goals are for Try and Prove It.
Do you want to tell us about the reason you were actually in DC? You weren't in DC.
Yes. So I did not just travel to DC to go take a closer look at the reflecting pool for myself, although that literally was the very first thing that we did. My sons and I actually were invited with this group, nonprofit advocacy group called Extreme Weather Survivors. And we were invited to go lobby at the Hill, speak to some congressional members about the July 4th floods and our experience, and the way that we hope to see some improvement in different services moving forward, and just kind of share the stories of not only what we experienced, but those who we've met along the way throughout this healing process as well. So it's pretty cool. My boys have testified now in at the Texas state capitol, and they've now had an opportunity to literally get to meet with. They met with their Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher. If we want to put up whenever you want, I can kind of point out some of the things that we did or people that we spoke with.
Almost done here.
Okay, awesome. So we met with our representative, Lizzie Fletcher. So that's in the bottom photo. She's there in the green suit. And then right above that, that's the
Wait,
kind of group from.
So she's your state representative from your geographical region?
She's yes, our U.S. representative, but from our district. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep. And so, yep, that's Lizzie Fletcher. And then in the photo above that, that's the sort of Texas, we're not a delegation, but that's the group of folks who were there from Texas who met. All in all, it was about 60, I think 50 or 60 different survivors from across the nation, not just regarding floods, but also extreme heat, fires like the California fires from, almost 2 years ago, I think, or a year and a half ago, maybe. And let's see, also North Carolina floods and some hurricane survivors, and also extreme cold too. So yeah, representing a wide variety there. And then, oh my gosh, his name just slipped my mind. But on the far left side of the screen there, I think, is he a senator from New York? Oh, I cannot think. But anyway, we spent some time talking with him, y'all. I'm always so good with all of the politicians' names, and the name literally just slipped
You might have
my.
Did you text it to me yesterday?
Slipped my mind. I don't think I mentioned his name to you yesterday. No. But it was interesting, from Texas. So we met with Senator Cornyn's office, but we did not meet with Senator
John
Cruz.
Hickenlooper.
Oh, Hickenlooper. No, we didn't get to speak with Hickenlooper. He was there in this group that we stood behind. We were on a bunch of the news stations and whatnot, but like standing in the background. Anyway. It was kind of neat, but it was really cool to see how kind the politicians, were to the boys, even without knowing what they were there for or who they were or anything like that. That was pretty cool. So it's nice to be able to get out there and use your voice to try to make a difference in the grand scheme of things. I always say that you gotta take a tragedy and try to make something good come of it. And in my mind, that comes through taking action, getting out there, sharing your story, and pushing for change for the future.
Yes, I'm trying to find the PBS NewsHour. Is that what it was? This is a really
gosh. Yeah. I see Elizabeth Minton had asked, how old are my boys? Brock, my youngest, he just turned 8 last week. So he is has just finished first grade. And then Braden, my oldest, he's 10. And so he's just finished 4th grade.
I think I found it.
Oh my gosh.
Aha.
Oh yeah. So we had Chuck Schumer there. We had Elizabeth Warren. We had this was something with all the Dems. But yeah, you see me standing over there in the back.
And it was hot and you were dehydrated.
It was very hot, and I'm probably looking down at some point because Brock was like laying on my feet. And I was worried that if the cameras by chance had taken a wide shot, they could have seen him laying on the ground. And so I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be so embarrassing. So you know when to push and when to go. And at that point, it was time to go.
Let me pull up this video you sent me.
Oh yeah, one more little aspect of this trip, and then we'll keep it
move on.
moving.
We do have Ryan in the studio now, and we're going to go to him next if he's available.
Yes. Okay, so just to kind of set this up, the boys, I didn't tell them what we were actually going to look at. But in the background, you can see there is the U.S. Capitol, and here is a whole lot of artwork. And it turns out this piece right here, the dark blue, yep, that's the boys. That's Braden and Brock. And so this was part of what they called Stolen Summers exhibit. It was up in front of the Capitol for about, interestingly, right between where this exhibit is set up in the Capitol is the Capitol reflecting pool, not to be confused with the other reflecting pool along
the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool.
Yes, thank you. But yeah, so that's the boys, and this is part of the Stolen Summers exhibit that extreme weather survivors had sort of taken around the country, exhibited around the nation. To raise awareness.
And I will never hesitate to point out that if you are a young child or any person really, and you intended to reproduce this in real life, please don't. These kids would be dead because that's like 7,200 volts of electricity. Those are electrical primaries. Those are extremely dangerous. Do not approach those power lines, please.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you. So anyway, it was really cool for the boys to get to. They had no idea that their piece was going to be on display, and it was really neat to see different observers come up and look at the piece, comment about it, and then realize that the boys who were there, depicted in the artwork, were then there in the flesh. It was pretty neat.
And that was commissioned for you guys.
It was, yes, yeah. And the group, I say couple, but the pair, the duo that created that piece, their Instagram handle is Tape Art, TAPEART. And so the real piece that they made, it's wild. It's like 12 feet tall and literally made with tape. And they use a projector and, pretty neat process there. But we're very honored to be able to participate in this outreach.
Is this it?
Yep, that's it.
That's pretty cool.
It. So,
we're going to go to Ryan pretty soon because he is waiting.
Okay, I'm ready for him.
Here it is. I found it.
Oh.
This is the mural version of it.
Yes. I mean, look how huge that is. It's an entire mural. So Brock is sitting up there at the very top in the corner.
Is there audio on this? I feel like there probably is.
There was. But yeah, the idea, it was just the ultimate irony, I guess, that they had no idea that Brock was actually sitting in a sort of a position that almost exactly mirrored what they had created. That was pure coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, let's go ahead and bring in Ryan. I believe he's ready. Give me a thumbs up. All right, he's ready. Perfect. So Ryan Logue is basically the guy who is still looking for people. He's the search and rescue guy from the floods, who is still doing not search and rescue, but he's the guy out in the river every day, who's doing a lot of work almost a year after the floods. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. doing that work and being the guy who actually goes and rescues people after the flooding that happened in Kerrville, North Carolina. So we're going to go ahead and bring him in here. Hey, Ryan, thanks for coming on.
What's going on, bud? Good to see you guys.
So we had a phone call 2-3 weeks ago, and we talked about some of the more technical aspects of the flooding and what may or may not have caused it. And we wanted to bring you back for another show because Kelly had some other stuff she wanted to share as well on the flooding. And you also gave me these wonderful AI summary reports that are very well put together. I know that some people think just press one button for write like a sentence long prompt and it just gives you this stuff. But I know this took a long time to.
I as Kelly knows a little bit, I'm AI is not exactly the thing that I was looking forward to in this world. But as I started gluing everything together that didn't make sense about it after I'd been on here, the last time I kind of sat there and I realized I was like, I really need to organize everything that goes on in my head. And so I bit the bullet and did, my, high perplexity AI, if you're probably watching me, but, I broke down and I got perplexity, and then I actually went and got all the other AIs I could and gave them all the same commands and gave them all the same information to go based off of, and then glued it into one to make it to where I felt like it was less bias. I was, as we are new to AI in general, I wanted to make sure that whatever I'm looking at, whatever I'm learning, because I'm not here to say something is or is happening. I'm here to figure out the truth with y'all. And that's not what AI is. From what I've seen, you can make it biased if you want to. And so if I use different models and glued it together, I felt like that report that I gave you was as unbiased based off all the research or the reports that I got you, or as unbiased as I could get based off how I understand how to use AI. And so I do hope that they helped because, as I go through it, I've double checked the statistics or any of the information in there to make sure that I'm not coming on here and blowing smoke up anybody's, what. I'm up here actually telling y'all the truth. And that was my biggest worry with anything that I would put out there, is that I look like a quote unquote conspiracy theorist and not a local who's trying to find truth for his community. And, as I look at these reports, as I've been at the river until 30 minutes ago, so excuse the wait. But as I was kind of going back through it and all that too, we talked about a lot of things, but at the same time, I was definitely not prepared to talk about a lot of this stuff, which is with the aquifer issue. However, it's within the concept of me really looking at this and believing within everything I have that this could have happened. But like was that packet you've seen, I want to make sure that we all discuss this and we all see what this could possibly be.
Mm-hmm. And as I read the report, there were two different reports he sent me, and then there was a third that I've not reviewed yet that was sent not a long time ago. So the purpose of the report, and I want to ask Kelly something when she comes back, but the purpose of the report is what happened in Kerrville almost a year ago. There was a massive flooding event that people might think, oh, it was just a normal flash flooding. It happens every 20 years or so when it gets really bad. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. It's a really big deal for people who were there, but it's not like a massive big. No, it actually was a massive big thing. And they know that it was a 500-year flood. So you're only going to have a flood that big every 500 years, but they don't even know that. It could be a 1,000-year flood. They don't even have the numbers to know that for sure. That's how big this flood was. So the question these reports are trying to answer or investigate is what caused it? Why was it so huge?
That's and that's the question I think the community has in general. Is we've seen floods within, maybe not to this magnitude within our lifetime or within, our usable memory, if you will. But we've seen things within a variable of this that makes it to where, if you are one of those people that lives on the river, you enjoy crazy weather, whatever it is, you go back in time and you compare a 8-inch rain within a few hours compared to this. And then you look at the videos of what those two floods are, you're looking at something completely different. And that's where, without the concept of even knowing to look possibly below the ground as opposed to in the air, is where people in this community, and I think people in general around the country, don't understand that also can have an impact on a flood. I was completely unaware of that. Everything I've sent you is because it didn't make sense. And all of a sudden things started kind of getting glued together through all of this. Then there's a person within our community, Michaela, that has talked about it. And sometimes the messenger and the message kind of get mixed up with each other. But she's done an amazing job of bringing facts to the community. The problem is, though, we are still a traumatized community. So hearing the truth about this is very tough for some people. And I'm not saying that what's in these reports is true yet, because we don't have all the reports as we're going to talk about. But I can say that without those, we have a community that's trying to heal, but you can't heal until you know the truth. And without these reports, there is no truth to this community, truly.
Kelly, do you want to talk about AI and how that can help us do the work that would typically take months to figure out when we have these really complicated ideas that we haven't figured out and we want to communicate these really complicated ideas? How can AI facilitate that?
Sure. AI, I always say that AI is one of my tools in my toolbox. I never rely solely on it. And as Ryan is saying, it's certainly a way that can help you hone your messaging toward a certain audience, or to convey a certain idea, or it can, it is as good as the prompt that you give it, right? And using, technology that can literally scour millions, billions, whatever of pages in just a matter of seconds. And if you are able to, kind of craft, your personal AI that you consistently use in a certain way, then it can help you just really, really dramatically. Everything from the kinds of questions that you want to ask. I mean, you can play devil's advocate with your AI. It doesn't just have to give you exactly what you're looking for. You can ask it to, punch every single hole in your argument.
And that's what I tried to make it do here. Like, as you're saying this, like, as I'm looking at it, like, I realized how much I've changed this, because I made it take information out because I couldn't find its verification for it. And that was where, AI, yes, it is a good tool, but like when you're saying, if you try to shift it towards a message, then it will try to go towards that message. And that was the last thing that I wanted it to do for this. Now, if I was doing something, I don't know, if I had political beliefs or something like that, I guess I would do it that way. But with this, I realized, like, that message, if you start trying to prompt it towards something, I could have prompted it towards almost anything. Not almost anything, but anything within reason. I realized that you can't, like, I realized that it kind of stopped doing that at a point with that I had to go to these different places. So it comes to, like, when we go through the report, or when we go through how we're going to do this, all of these different things at the beginning were different AI systems. So I got all the research and I glued it together, and I go, what is the possibility of this possibly happening? And then I put it all back into all of those same systems, and I go, confirm this. All of them confirm it. They said it's a possibility based off of the missing reports. My biggest, not fear, but what I never want to be is an advocate for something that's not true about this flood. We've seen so much disinformation and misinformation, and how they're attacking Camp Mystic when Camp La Junta based off the timing and stuff, did way worse of a response than Camp Mystic did. We've had so much disinformation that I'm not going to come onto a podcast, and I want to make sure that what I'm putting or what I sent y'all has all the truth in it. It may even be missing some, but at least it has it in there.
The objective is to prevent it from happening again. And if we have bias, then that doesn't help.
100%
Yeah. And it is.
Yep,
go ahead.
No.
Well, I was just going to say it's worth noting that, the last time I had said, Ryan, I'm gonna say this because I don't live in the community, and so I don't have to worry about seeing this person at the grocery store or getting side-eyed, at the gas station by someone who's going to be upset. Because you guys have to remember, this is, while it was a huge tragedy, it is a small community in the grand scheme of things, right? And so Ryan has to live like next to all of these people. So I think that for him to stick his neck out and talk about something that does make people feel uncomfortable, I would say is, it's a big deal.
As you know, a bit of my history, Kelly, like that's a hard part of what I'm doing right now, is being somebody that could actually say something controversial. However, I don't know if I sent y'all this, but our city, and this is something y'all may want to see if y'all can Google when you're doing it on the side or whatever y'all do, is the city actually implemented and voted into a pipeline that's going to be put in that now is going to run our sewage water, our treated sewage water, over to a creek in the middle of town that runs into the lake in the middle of town that's right above where we get our drinking water from. And that's part of this report. Then that's so anyways, but yes, the reason that now the reason I'm saying that though is because I'm not worried about what people think anymore. Like the first time I was on here, I was a little worried about it, to be honest with you. Since that last time I was on the show, there's been a lot of things that have happened within the community to where that fear is not nearly as prevalent. So I'm ready to make sure that the truth is coming out.
Well, let's go for it. Okay.
Yeah. So as I read your report, I'm thinking about how do we explain, do we have that? I want to pull up that video so I can sort of show what we're trying to explain.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Jordan.
Yeah.
I can effort that real quick.
The objective,
but I think for the folks who have not heard, about not only just this concept, but can you just kind of briefly and succinctly, Ryan, lay out, what happened on July 4th?
Yeah. So
in those early hours.
So July 4th, obviously, we had the massive flood in Kirk County, up along in between the south and north. So the Guadalupe River, up near Hunt, Texas, or in the middle of Hunt, Texas, veers to the right and to the left, if you want to call it that way, and it goes to the North and South Fork. In between the North and South Fork is, I believe, if I remember right, 200,000 acres of hillsides that all feed into the North and South Fork. A majority of it feeds into the South Fork, and where that rain sat for, apparently, from what I've seen on the reports, a couple of hours, most of that fed into the South Fork. Apparently, it was upwards to 18 inches of rain. However, most reports that actually have come out officially, from what I understand, are 12 inches. During that time, that was about 1 in the morning that began. Between that time and 6 in the morning, the river changed from, I believe it was 500 cubic feet per second up to 950,000. If I'm saying this correctly, because I'm not looking exactly at my numbers right here. The problem, and so I say that, and so what happened is that, Camp Mystic, so the water came down, it rose. What they report is upwards to 40 feet. Officials reports say 20-something feet. There are areas where there's groups like Rampart Vigilance that, are still out there doing God's work that have seen it, that it is that there are areas where it's 90, 100 feet up. And there are areas where water has come up over the hillsides as opposed to just through the creeks. That water came down and created a 14-foot surge somehow. And that is where Camp Mystic ended up losing those children, because they were taking care of kayaks when they would have figured they had multiple hours until the water would have risen that much, when all of a sudden they were given minutes, if not seconds, to do what they should have been able to do in hours. And I'm sorry, I'm about to tear up a little bit. And so when this happened, but I was in center point, the water flowed. There was all the variables we talked about last time, and from the very beginning, I began questioning what actually happened. We lost 100 in there. They talk about we have lost 119 people from our community, from the state, from the country, from the world in this flood, specifically in Kerr County. 27 of those being campers and counselors from Camp Mystic, one being Dick Eastland, the director, the man who was the heart of that camp, passed away in this too. If he knew it was coming, he wouldn't have done what he did at that moment. He would have done something different, because he would have known that this was coming. He would have never did know that. What the disaster of this flood was intense, yes. But there was more to it, I've always felt like, than this. And that's what this report is me not saying this is exactly what happened or it was. This is me trying to sleep better at night. Me being able to talk about this to other people. Like, I didn't make this to try to prove a point. I wanted this report so that we could all try to either disprove it together or prove it together. Because otherwise, I have a community that, I don't represent. I'm just a dude that lives on Leland. I'm nobody. But at the same time, if I can tell people that, what, this is really what it is, and that we can make this stop by making the city stop pumping water into an aquifer system, then we can stop doing it.
Yeah.
Let's
Jordan,
get it.
do you want to roll that video so that way folks can see just a quick clip of what this kind of looked like when everything started rolling in?
So this is what we're trying to explain. It starts out like,
if you go back even further, there you go.
So that right there is the beginning of this. So they talk about 3 surges, and this is in center point. So this is where I was at. So these are one of the 3 surges. This is surge number probably 2 or 1, and you see that's about what 18 inches right there.
now
That's approximate about what that lift looks like. The reports are that it is there was a 14-foot wave behind that in the Mystic area.
Could you show, Jordan, just show that, because it is just so dramatic when at the very beginning, when that wave just initially comes through.
it looks like a tsunami wave almost.
And that's, as we will talk about through the report, a tsunami wave is through pressure that's being exerted through the ground because of a seismic event, if you will. It's a force of energy that comes up through the ground and presses water up. That's exactly what that looks like, and that's what, as we go through this report, that's what could really easily cause something exactly like that.
And we're going to get into some of the technical aspects of this, like the ASR system, the Trinity Aquifer. But first, we want to set this context of what we're trying to explain here. Because this does not appear to be a normal, just flash flood. It doesn't seem like that.
No.
And we can link this video afterward because I know a lot of people get very curious about this video. What's so interesting, one of the other things that's very interesting about it is that this person was rolling the entire time. There are no breaks in recording.
It's not sped up.
It's very dramatic. And then you see how it takes down trees. I mean, you guys, it takes down trees like child's play.
And to put this into context too, this is at the center point. This is the bridge at Center Point. Center Point is 13 miles from town, plus another 6 miles to Kirk Ingram, plus another. So that's 24 miles from Hunt. That is 26 miles, 28 miles from Camp Mystic. That right there, or 27 miles from Camp Mystic. That right there is coming in. So that's daylight. That's 4, 5, 6 hours later. That massive amount of water is still there. 6 hours later.
In 17 minutes, we go from this to that. So where does all that water come from? And why are we talking about underground stuff? So let's go back to this view here and switch this back. Okay. When we talk about an aquifer, maybe some people don't know what an aquifer is. When you need drinking water and you don't have city water, you typically cut a hole in the ground and you put a well down under the ground, and there's water down under the ground, and that's the water table. That's groundwater. Would it be correct to say that that's basically what an aquifer is? It's just a large
aquifers are an underground series of caves or rivers and streams that are just underground. Most of our rivers and our lakes, for the most part, in this world, are above ground aquifers. They're where the aquifer enters into the ground, or becomes ground level. That's what a river and a stream and creek are for the most part, or at least there's where part of it comes out and then it flows water out of. So yeah, that's an aquifer system, is a cave system that is contained.
Now, the aquifer system in that area of Texas, actually over a very large portion of Texas, that's the Trinity. The Trinity, I had it up here, but it disappeared.
Yes, the Trinity Aquifer. And
how big is that?
So you've got the upper, lower, and middle Trinity, all separated. One separated by, what is it? The Hostin sand and limestone, a certain type of limestone, a Sligo limestone. And then you got the middle, which is the Glen. It's got the Glen Rose, Hensel sand, and Cow Creek limestone. And you got the upper, which is another form of limestone. And these are all just separate layers of pretty much different rivers, but separated by different shelvings that go underneath. I mean, not all of Texas, but damn near a good portion of it. Or at least west and central Texas.
Is this a good representation of it?
That works.
And which one is it? Is it the green one?
That's going to be the green one. But you have overlapping though. So with a lot of this, so how ours works here is that we have overlapping with. So we're finding the exact. Oh shit! What did I just do? My computer. There you go.
So these are the different aquifers in the state of Texas. The green one is basically like a massive underground lake tunnel system.
It's an underground cave system. So the Trinity Aquifer system is what they call a karst system, Karst. And that means, I'm going to actually make sure I'm not screwing this one up. But yeah, it's limestone and dolomite rock formations underneath the ground. And as acidic groundwater goes down into the the entry points, or the what do you call it? Like where a spring head would be, those are not just exits, they're also entry points. When it goes to any of those, it goes in there. But when it goes underground, water alkalines. So you have alkaline water for the most part after a certain amount of time. Well, when it first goes in there, it comes in acidic.
When I hear the word alkaline, I think of a battery. What do you mean by that?
Alkaline meaning there's alkalinity, there's acidity and alkalinity. So it's
Okay.
not acidic water. After a while, like if natural spring water is very alkaline, treated water, because it's got chlorine in it, potassium permanganate, all of these things, it is acidic because it's been treated. It's got a low pH on it instead of a high pH. You want high pH water because human body, nature, all of that runs off of a 7.5 to 9.5 pH level. When we're injecting water into there that is acidic through the city, through, just from water runoff from our streets and all that, you acidify the water. So you're now making acidic water. Here, I'll give you an example. My daughter peed on this very bizarre story. My daughter peed on a limestone boulder when we were at the park one time. She was sitting there. She was like 4. She peed on it. It burned her legs because the acidity from her pee hit that limestone rock and burned her legs. That's how much an acidic liquid can have an effect on limestone. Limestone has a very hard reaction to it. And so our system, as water enters in from even the groundwater, though, that's just acidic enough that it breaks down these aquifer shelves, these limestone shelves, and creates cave systems throughout it, creating creeks, streams, and all that underground.
Now, alkalinity, I remember from my pool certification, they teach you a lot of chemistry when they teach you how to operate a pool, whether indoor, outdoor, spa, whatever. The total alkalinity is a unit that we measure, and that's the resistance of the water to pH change. Is that correct?
Okay, you just got real scientific on me. The terminology.
If you have
to think about
high,
this.
If you have high alkalinity, that would mean that the pH isn't going to change rapidly day to day, right?
No, so a high pH level. So you have neutral pH, which is what 7.5 or 7, and I think it's 7. It's neutral. And once you get into the acidic level, which is down, your water is more unstable at a molecular level. If I'm getting this correct in my head. And so if it goes alkaline, like you're saying, though, yes, it is a more stable substance at that point. Because that acidity, like if you have city drinking water and you see how it like corrodes your dishes, how it breaks down the pipes in your house, that's from the acidity in the water. That's not, it's from, the other byproducts in there as well, but a lot of it's because you have a very low pH level within your city water.
And this stuff matters because we're talking about the aquifer's ability to accept or primarily to accept water, right?
So so on the night of the flood, where the question comes in that I guess I'm here talking about is, so our city has what they call an ASR system, which is our ASR, aquifer. Wait, it's an ARS. Aquifer recharge system.
ASR,
or aquifer storage and recovery. Sorry, we have an ASR system. There we go. Sorry,
right.
I got two things mixed up.
People think I'm book smart, but I'm not book smart.
Yeah, no, y'all do this really late at night, by the way. This is not like if y'all did this like 7 a.m. Shit, I talk a lot, but I'd talk even more.
Sorry, we're night owls.
Yeah. But no, so what our city does is we take groundwater, water out of the Guadalupe, we treat it like as if we were going to take it and turn it into city water, and we pump it all the way back up river into well systems throughout the Trinity aquifer system. And what we're using, what we quote unquote use that for, is for if it droughts out, if we get a drought and we need water for the city. We are the only true ASR system in the state. San Antonio has one, but it's more of I believe it's just an AS system or an AR system. They actually don't, they're actually not planning on reusing it. They only repump it over there because for some transfer reason. The city, so my dog's making me better. Sorry.
He knows you're stressed out, I think.
Was that?
That's why he came over. I think he came over because you were stressed out. He's a therapy
Yeah,
dog.
she's like, oh, you're talking about the river again. Oh shit. So we take 2.5 million gallons of water per day out of the Guadalupe. We treat it and then we inject it 500 to 600 feet down into the lower Trinity Aquifer. We're the only city in the state of Texas that does this. So we're the only one with this permit, that we're the only one that reports to TCEQ, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. We're the only one that reports to them about this.
And why do you inject treated water?
That water. So that water goes, so we take Guadalupe River water and we pull it up into our treatment center. They chlorinate it, so it kills all of the organic matter in there. The problem is that when chlorine touches organic matter, it creates what is called a TTHM. And I gotta find the what that actually is, the
What the acronym is.
Yeah, what that stands for, because I don't want to break that one up.
So when you go to the pool and you smell the
THM,
pool smell, the chlorine smell, I think that's what that is. That's the chlorine.
That chlorine smell. So when chlorine hits, so when you pump in water from a river, you filter it through, so you get out all the organic matter. You still have organic matter in there at a molecular level. When that chlorine hits that molecular level, it creates, here it is, a THM, which is a trihalomethane. Trihalomethanes and HAAs, which is a haloacidic acid. I got to get better at these things. But EPA's guidelines explicitly warn that an ASR operation with soluble organic matter should be removed from the injectate before the disinfection. There is no way that if we're using a water source that has organic matter in it, there's no way to guarantee that water has no organic matter in it. You can't filter all organic matter out of water. Like, I mean, you can distill it, but you'd have a whole nother operation going on.
And I can bring this back to what we were talking about earlier in the show with the reflecting pool before Ryan came on. They're pumping water into the reflecting pool that I believe was straight from the Potomac, and they don't chlorinate it. So there's a lot of organic matter in there that causes algae.
Yes, 100%. And that's where, and the thing is too, is that if you pump water and that's organic, and then you treat it like we're just talking about now, that's where they're going to run into issues too. You can't just you can't take river water and just pump chlorine into it, because then you get a different reaction. You're getting different microorganisms that you're creating, that even though it's an inorganic matter mixing with an organic matter, you still get an organic or a semi-synthetic or semi-organic compound that once it gets put underground grows. Like, it doesn't completely go away. It doesn't just create an organism that just, it's one part of it and then it goes no more. They're very similar from all my research to like a mold, a mildew, what do you want to call it? Fungus, where it's like dark and humidity make it grow. Well, what is an aquifer system? Exactly that.
Mm-hmm. So when we talk about the relationship between this stuff and the flood, what we're talking about is when it rains, from the sky, when rain comes down from the sky, the water has to go somewhere. Where it would naturally go is underground into these aquifers. So if we don't want to cause flash flooding, we want to make sure that the pathway from the surface, from the ground to the aquifer, is unobstructed. So what impact does this discussion have on that pathway from the top level of the ground into the aquifer?
So that's exactly why, I don't know. That's exactly why I have all of these questions, is kind of what you asked. So if you go into the reporting on here, let me go to this real quick. Here, let me send this to you real quick. So I have one too. It's a breakdown of the reports truly needed. So when we pump this water in from the city's treat, when the city treats this water and they pump it up into this aquifer system, it goes down into the aquifer system. Well, when that chlorinated water that's acidic mixes with these or with this organic matter, like I was saying, it can grow, it can actually multiply. Like it doesn't just go stale underwater. What's happening here possibly is that it has now clogged certain areas where this water that once flowed through normally. It is now clogged up. Now there are areas being built up and they have now created more pressure within this aquifer system to where water that was coming out of the sky had nowhere to go, so it had to run off into that river. It could not. So in a karstic system, anywhere from 4 to 12%, I believe it is, of the water can flow down and then enter the aquifer system. None of that, if the numbers are correct and from the missing reports that we have, if those numbers are correct, then we are missing. Then there was nowhere for the water to go. So 13% more water would have had nowhere to go.
What impact?
Can you explain that part just one more time, just to make sure that because that sounds like a significant amount, and I just want to make sure that it like hits.
Yeah, I'm not a scientist, so that's where it's like the hardest part is me putting this into terms where it's easily available to my brain. Okay, so when we pump that water into this aquifer system, it goes in, and we have a certain amount of pressure that aquifer can hold. There's a certain amount of water and a certain amount of pressure. The day before, on July 3rd, before they stopped reporting on that aquifer, we had pumped in it was holding the most water it ever held in its entirety, which was 1.03 billion gallons. That was the night before the flood. So the morning of the flood, when that happened, there was nowhere for that water to go. If in a karstic, what do you call it? In a karstic aquifer system, it has a lot of entry points, but it has a lot of exit points. So you have in and out. This had nowhere to go because it had nowhere to come. It was all, if it came in, there was nowhere for it to go out of because it was already getting pushed out. When we talk about this inland tsunami part, so if this was to happen, and I'm saying if this was to happen, when that water is trying to push into these aquifers, into these springs, it's going to put pressure on shelving that is already being broken down by acidic water. It is malleable at this point. It is, or what's the word I'm looking for? Not malleable. It's permeable. There we go. God, I sound like a scientist. It becomes permeable. So when pressure from below it comes up, it is able to, and there is proof of this in Spain, Indiana, Croatia, and one other location I can't think of right now where this happened. And there was so much pressure within this karstic system that it ends up bowing out the shelving of the top layer of the aquifer, which would, in this case, be the Guadalupe River.
Do you know why the aquifer was so full at that time?
That is, so there are, I've got to think it's about 6 reports. Really, no, it's more than that. It's, 6 reports that the city has not filed, or the state has not received. One being, so one of them is here it is right here. The ASR system operator daily log, which would have the injection, which would include the injection volumes of every day, the injection pressures of every day, the flow rates, any equipment anomalies, operator notes, and any deviations from normal operating parameters. This is like a normal file that you would have, and that would be available to the state and would have been given. It's never been released. So there is one. So we are. Let's see here. Let me go through this. So we are missing completely the ASR monthly injection and recovery volume report. So, like what I was just saying, everything, the volume and the amount that was recovered out of it has not been reported. So they aren't telling us that they put this much out, took that much out. There's no way for us to know where that water could have gone because we don't know what kind of levels were in those aquifer systems. The quality reports have not been, so the TTHMs that I was talking about, those are, and the arsenic, all the levels, those have only been available for quarters 1 through 2 of 2024. And that's it. And those are disclosing and those are from when we started having violations of TTHMs over, we're getting violations of 87 parts per billion when 80 parts per billion is the legal amount. That right there is why I'm saying that this is possible in that way, is because when you have that many TTHMs that many parts per billion of TTHMs in your water, you are dissolving limestone at an exponential rate at that point, not just a smaller rate at that point. You are doing it at a exponential level.
So if the THMs dissolve limestone, intuitively, that would make me think that would make the aquifer even better. Why is that not the case?
So, okay, how do I think if I can think of an analogy? I'm pretty good at these normally. Okay, so water's going to run through a tubing that has, I don't know, a softer substance through it. If it runs through that softer, just a pipe, and if he keeps running through that softer substance, that stuff is going to start breaking up. Let's say you put hot water through it, just like an oil, it breaks it up. Well, we're going to use the hot water as the analogy towards the acidic water. So if you have a clogged pipe and you start breaking it out slowly with hot water, you can do that same thing with acidic water. However, when you start breaking up, it creates mush. It's not just breaking it up and it not dissolving, and it's also our organic compounds that grow. So you're not just breaking something down, you're creating a sludge that now can be caught up on rocks and grows, and then begins to harden, because if it dries out, then you are now creating a new impermeable wall, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So the chemical breakdown that happens as a result of the THMs effectively decreases the permeability of the aquifer.
Yes, and so all of a sudden now you've got flow rates going through one cave system that were giving water to certain areas, and now they're clogged up, and so now these certain cave systems are empty, and you're now directing water into other cave systems that are not as full. These limestone walls across these different aquifer systems, they're not stable. That's why there is limits in which you can pump the water and the pressure into it, is that there is a limit in which they can hold. And they are now, and what I believe happened, or possibly could have, I'm not saying believe, what possibly could have happened was that they overpressurized this. They had nowhere to go. And, we'll go into, we'll have to read it together. But
I have a question.
Yeah.
You say pressurize it. Fluid cannot be compressed. So my question is,
and pressure.
So the air in the aquifer is pressurized. Why does the air not escape through the permeability of the stone?
Because it is contained. From how I understand this, it is contained. But they still can pressurize it because it has to. So even though there isn't an ability to pressurize it with water because of, there's least resistance and all that, you still are going to have holding wells. There are areas where there are caves. There's no exit for any of this stuff. There are areas. It's not all of it, because if you have flowing water, obviously that's not a cave. That is part of the creeking or river systems under the ground. But when you have these caves that are completely enclosed in, once they start breaking apart is when they start affecting other well system parts to it too. Mm-hmm. It's hard. It took me a while to learn this, so describing it to you is still tough, only because I'm trying to make it to where people can swallow what I'm saying. But it's tough because it's so when we were on the thing last time, didn't we talk about the explosions that people had reported hearing?
Mm-hmm. Yes, some really loud
So I wanted to, now that I'm talking about these wells that are contained, that are pressurized, this is where I want to talk about those explosions, because as I went through this report and started plugging this in, there are reports in Croatia and in Spain when they had karstic pressure. Oh, it's a karstic event, or they have a word for it. It's at the bottom of this one, I think. Is that it's so much pressure within these well systems that they are explosions, that they do actually create boom sounds, like because of the vibration, because of the explosion impact. It is what you would actually, they're called karst bursts. Sorry. In Grazalema, Spain, Marina Bay, Croatia, Orangeville Rise, Indiana. Ireland has them they had them in 2015 and 16. And then in France, they have them reoccurring. And then Indiana's are reoccurring as well.
I have a video here. I haven't actually watched it, but let's see if this is what you're talking about. Does this...
Okay, yeah, there we go. We're
ground.
I mean, it seems like we're cooking close to fire here.
Sinkholes. And finally, springs are exit points of water from the underground system.
You can hear that, right?
Yeah, I can hear that.
Back to the surface. Let's now look back at our region. Loch Mask has many rivers further south at the various springs around Kong, pushed up outflow for Loch Mask waters during the rainier season or the winter.
I thought I was going to talk about the
From
explosion
human
part.
influence. Channels in the bedrock creates a landscape called karst. This landscape gives rise to unique features such as swallow holes, which are formed where surface water goes underground, caves, and underground galleries, which are openings carved by moving water underground.
So the explosion happens when this area pressurizes, and then I guess it kind of like almost volcanoes out the top.
It shifts, so it's almost a seismic, from how I understand it. Like I said, I'm not obviously a geologist or whatever the shit it is, but it is a seismic shift that gets created within that pressurization. So so limestone's not a very dense rock. It's very clay-like, very permeable, it moves. It can shift. If that was able to over-pressurize and shift, it would create it would give out, which would then, yes, as at least from how I understand it, as the air and everything pocketed back into these different cave systems, and it wouldn't just happen in one, it would happen in multiple of these smaller caves, at least from how I understand it through this, is that when you do that, you would hear multiple booms because they all start collapsing in on each other. I tried to find video on it. I've done enough research where I get tired and I'd rather be in the river. So I haven't found any, but I'm sure y'all are pretty good at this. So,
Kelly,
so
we were supposed to look up.
What's that?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to look up?
Like the karst explosions. I was gonna see if y'all,
that's
y'all
what I was
were
trying
able
to
to find
find.
like a diagram on it. I did a quick search and I gave up at one night and haven't gotten back to it yet.
I did see a question in the chat regarding, so people thought that they heard explosions, and Ryan, I'm sure you have a lot of insight on this, but I know from the many folks that I've talked to, including my 2 kids that were there, they felt like the thunder booms that they heard were louder than anything that they had ever heard before. And I remember distinctly my friend who we went to college together. She lives in Kerrville. Anyway, she was the first person who I reached out to on the morning of July 4th. And that was one of the first things that she told me, that the thunder was louder than anything that she had ever heard before. So take that
And
for
where
what
did it sound like
it is. But
And
Where
that,
did it sound like it came
did I talk about that last time a little bit? Was that the sounds like that?
a little bit. But I mean, we've got a different audience in here this
Yeah,
time, so feel
so
free to.
I mean, so I've cleaned the river up in the North Fork and the South Fork, and I, as much as I don't push this concept on anybody, I like to see what people's concept, I like to let them talk about what happened as much as possible. I've got two guys who one was in Vietnam, and the other guy's, I don't know, in his 80s and was in the military. They both told me with tears in their eyes to an extent that there was no way that was thunder because it actually scared them. I have a friend named Ofer who trains cadaver dogs, and whatever you want a dog for, she'll train it. And she lives off Upper Turtle Creek, which is the creek which is pretty much on the other side of the hills from Hunt on the Guadalupe. And she told me, I mean, like when I first started doing search and rescue with her, she was like, she first told me, she was like, I've never seen my dog so scared of weather before. And she was apparently, I'm not going to quote this, but I mean, she told me she was scared as she could be. And I mean, she's lived through a lot of things in life. And I mean, it's not something that should have affected her like that, a rainstorm. Mm-hmm. But she said that she's never experienced anything like that in her life. Like I've told people, I slept through it. I live in Kerrville. Once I'm out, I'm out. Like there's no up. And so
it must be nice.
It's a beautiful thing. And yeah, but no, the people that I've talked to, there's a guy I think listening possibly named Camden. And Camden was telling me that he was up at, whenever it was that he first got up, he heard a couple of those booms when they were going on, and he was on the phone with somebody. He was in Ingram, and they were in Mountain Home, which is about a 30-mile difference, if I'm not mistaken. About 30 miles. And they were hearing the booms at the same time. And like I said, I'm not a scientist, but if the concussioning of thunder does what I think it does, you're not going to, at a 30-mile difference, there's no, even if it's a perfect triangle, you're not hearing that on the same on the phone at the same time.
No. Well, I mean, if it were directly in the center, you would.
Yeah, but the chances of that in the way that those two towns are related to, if I'm looking at the map and all that right here, there's no way that that thunder's in the middle right there, because that would have been out west of them or west of Camden, directly due west, and that would have been southwest of him or south by southwest due of him, something like that. So there's no way that there was anything close to a middle triangulation of them two, or with the two of them.
So the basic idea here is it sounds like the thunder. Where did it sound like it was coming from? Directionally?
From the South Fork is from how everybody described it directionally or navigationally. It was from the South Fork, as far up the river as you could have gone and as far west in the county as you could have gone. That's where it was.
Ryan, can you explain what that means for people who aren't familiar with what the South Fork?
Map, I can.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll pull up a map of Kerr County.
And would you be able to lean in a little closer to? I always tell you to come on in closer.
I know, I'm trying.
He always gets at me about that too, even at the reflecting pool.
I mean, y'all do know it's 11:04 p.m. Central Standard Time, right? Somebody's got to get comfortable at some point.
He's always yelling at me about
you're north.
The camera up, about moving the microphone closer to me. She's always
you're gonna go.
I'm just trying to help, folks. I'm just trying to help.
I'm not that shit. All right, see here. I feel like there you go, right in her front, right in her front. There you go. All right, now you're gonna follow that.
So it sounded like it was coming from where?
Follow left.
West.
Left. There you go. Crider's Dance Hall. There we go. Go down to Crider's. There you go.
So that's where it sounded like it was coming from?
So no, you'd even go farther down left of the screen, down river. So the river goes down left. Zoom in, right? Let's see where there. That's there's okay. So the mouth of the river, the true mouth or a tributary of the river. See here, let me get my map out. Is all right. You see, there's Wilkinson Ranch. You see Bonnie Hills Ranch. The river that right there in the middle, top middle of the screen. The right there to the left of that, if you go west and north, right around where your thing is, right around there, if I'm not mistaken, is about where the actual mouth is.
Of the river.
Yeah, of the river. Here we go. There, now you're speaking my language. Here we go. I can tell you exactly where it is now. Right below your no. So yeah, zoom into that real quick. Right where your mouse was, right there. Nope, that's not it. Okay. Zoom out real quick. Now you're gonna see where is that? I can see it. Zoom out. Here. Keep zooming out. You're gonna because I'm gonna go right a little bit. We're gonna go back east. Rock and white. Okay. There we go. We're gonna go. So right. Okay, so here we've got to look at something else here. I got to pull my map up. Sorry, I got to do this.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, I can just mention that. Let me pull this comment up from Tiny Loves Boston. But was it possibly not thunder? I'm remembering the Rainmaker mullet hair dude, by the way. So, would love to at some point, Ryan, discuss Rainmaker. Cloud seeding concepts, all that.
So with that right there, so when the flood first happened, my theory was that this was cloud seeding. I was just like, these pieces of you know what, like they overdid it, like f them. But then there was the purple on my pants, the potassium manganate. There was all the little things that led me to like it was weird, something else. I truly question I always ask people. Okay, they've been doing cloud seeding what now? They filed the first patents for it in the 1920s? Is that correct? I think it was. I think in the 1920s when they first did the first cloud seeding patents. I mean, it was that long ago, or the 1940s maybe. I may have been wrong on which one it was. Anyways, they've been doing it for 80 years, I believe, the cloud seeding patents. It's about 80 years now. Why, after 27 girls die and 119 people die, 1950, okay, I was off by a couple decades, whatever. Little details. But why, if they've been doing this since 1950, why all of a sudden come on TV the day after these people die and say, oh, yeah, we were there, but we didn't really do it that bad? I mean, y'all have researched enough things to realize that they like us to look in the direction that we're not supposed to be looking. I don't think this was a cloud seeding thing as much. I think they wanted us to look up at chemtrails and go, oh, it was the big bad chemtrails when it was right below our feet. I don't know if that's called a false flag, what you call that, but it never makes sense. It's a distraction. Why when I'm out
it's like field. George Zinn.
It yes. throw up something. Yes. Looky here. I did it. Well, Ryan, I did want to let you know that you were not off base by thinking of 1920 because there was a weather modification patent that traced the idea of artificial precipitation back to at least an April 27th, 1920 patent. So, and it involved the term rainmaking. So you were not off base there, but
yeah, never take when you do an AI Google search and it just gives you an answer, like an AI answer, never just believe that.
Oh yeah. Oh no. So
yeah,
did they change this? No way.
But I do want to also mention that it was quite suspicious to me. Y'all know I don't think I'm a conspiracy theorist. I think I'm a critical thinker. Okay. The important distinction there. But it is very interesting to me that Sean Ryan, big podcaster, sort of CIA contractor aligned guy, okay, had on Rainmaker
For
CEO.
people who don't know, what's Rainmaker?
It is a cloud seeding company. Okay. So had on the CEO of Rainmaker in, I believe it was June, just a few weeks before the July 4th incident. Okay. So I see a lot of parallels. I'm just going to throw this out there with this guy and the guests that he has on and news events, predictive programming, and then also trying to adjust the narrative after. I'm just going to throw that out there because y'all know
No,
I think it
I,
and I say it, but it comes with research too.
I never believed that this I thought honestly would have thought it would have been cloud seeding until I heard that they talked about it, and then my little spidey senses go, no, you wouldn't talk about this after 130 people at that point were missing and all that. Like, you just don't do that. And I don't know. That's why it's like, did it play a cause in it? I do believe weather modification, yes, is how they directed and made that storm sit on it. Am I wrong? Maybe. I don't know. Do I believe that in my heart? A little bit. I do. If you watch this Doppler on it that night, and you watch how it vibrates, how it does all these things, that's because of frequency signals that they can send from those radar systems, those Doppler systems. If you look at the weather modification actual patents and how they have made these, how they do this, that's all it is. They can send those frequency and vibrate these clouds into one position for a certain amount of time if they want to. I mean, that's not me watching too much Twitter. That's me actually reading their patents. And so that's where it's, I do believe it had something to do with how much rain we got, but we can get that much rain.
Yep. As I just have to call out, Sean in 1985 says, but they're also known to say it right in front of our faces without saying it.
Well, that's
and
why.
That's why I wanted to make sure that I made mention of.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it didn't have nothing to do with it. I mean, obviously, if you watch the video, if you watch the Doppler and you watch it frame by frame, either they were sending serious frequency vibration signals into it, or they added it in there, or it was implanted into the database. And to say that there was 18 to say that there was 18 inches and there may have not have been. Like I said, I'm not here to say any of those things. I'm just saying that I did have a part in it. I just don't think it had there was no way with the ability to how much rain and how much of a surge we got that it was just purely from that little bit, not little bit, but that one rain source. Because we've seen 8-10 inches around here. We've seen it. It didn't do that.
Mm-hmm. What Emily L. in SC is saying, I think they did both, and what they sprayed enhanced the frequency.
Well, and so when you put heavy, so all of the things that they spray into chemtrails, they're heavy metals, barium, all the things. You can control heavy metals through frequency easier than you can control just water itself. So if you add that water or those heavy metals into precipitation, you can then control it much better too. That's why they add those heavy metals. Not just because it makes it coagulate and fall easier. It's also because it's easier for them to control through their vibrational systems, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Ryan, do you think do you think sort of made painted the picture, I guess, of what all you feel may have happened, may have led up, based on your information thus far? Are there any pieces to this that we have? I know it's a voluminous amount of research and whatnot that you've done. I just want to make sure that we're painting the picture for the audience as best as possible.
So here's the biggest thing is that I'll just go from a blank slate on my brain on this. White dog, move back. White dog. Sorry, my dog's white. That's her name. All of these things about the aquifer system, how much water was injected, what kind of water was injected, how quality of the water was it, what was the pressure, what were the rates, what were all of these things. The reason that it bugs me and the reason I'm here and I created a report for Jordan and you is because all of the information that would satisfy us as a community saying this didn't happen is not available. That's why we're here. That is the biggest question we have is where are these reports? Why are these reports not here?
I have a question about that. So for people who missed the context here, you have, is it monthly reports or like
monthly, quarterly,
biannual reports?
Annually. Monthly,
Annually?
quarterly, and annually.
Okay. So these reports are missing. The last, I think, 2 of them are missing for this aquifer. My question about that is it possible those are missing because the equipment was destroyed during the flood?
Nope, because you can't. These are all things that don't get taken out by a flood, I guess you will, because they are land level and they are usually within how it's described to me. There's no way for that to get pushed out of there, or these sensors or whatever, because these are injection rates coming from a central station getting pushed in. So the pipe that runs from a treatment center all the way into the well system, they know the pressure of which it's traveling all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't need it to be in the river.
They can not like the equipment isn't like in the river or like on the shore.
No.
Okay.
No. Even though our our treatment center had sustained damage to it, it's all done in a reporting manner that this is not based off the law and how I read it. They're not allowed to make it to where a flood can wipe out all that information. That information has to be kept off site with the cloud, all the bullshit. Sorry, pardon my French. But they have to do that, or they don't get this. Like this, the state TCEQ has pretty good guidelines for it from what I've read. How they want these to be set up, how they want the reporting, what they believe in the standards for it. I'm not exactly 100% against that. But when the city, it looks like I'm possibly negligently, if we could get these reports, you could almost tell if it was negligent or not, that they overpumped that aquifer system. They realized it the morning of the flood, and they realized that as we talked about the county engineer, Charlie Hastings. Mm-hmm. He passed away, reportedly took his life.
Ryan, would you mind, because most of our audience is not going to be familiar with that. So do you mind just kind of giving them a little recap on that situation?
I talk a lot and too much.
That's okay. Okay.
It's going to be okay no matter what, but yeah. Okay. What's it called? So Charlie Hastings was the Kerr County engineer. He was our county engineer. He is the one that was all over, he was kind of the representative of our county in the way of what happened with the flood. All the flood, all of the, cubic feet per square inch, the cubic feet per inch, all of the things that we, all the data that has been used through the media, through, the investigators for it. He was the one that had compiled all that data. He knew the flood maps. He knew the water rises and all throughout the county. He knew all of it.
He was directing people on how to rebuild, what was acceptable.
So it was he did everything. He was the one that was on, mainstream media for us or on the news. He's the one that described it, how you have inland tsunami up there. He's the one that was the first person to say that in hearings.
What do you think he meant by that?
I believe so. My personal belief, if I have those reports, I'll repeat it again. If I have those reports and they said that there was high pressure, all the things, my belief is that when that cave system, diagram that we're looking at, when it imploded, exploded, however you want to word it, When it did that, that pressure, so it's going to collapse down and it's going to create a rebound. What do they call it? I read it too. It's a rebound pressure or a rebound force or something like that. And it's going to push up just like if you have an earthquake underground. It's a seismic event. And when that happens, it pushes that pressure up, and it probably pushed up, I'm guessing, a very large cracking I've found throughout the middle of the river.
And that's how you get a tsunami wave from
That's how you
something
get a
underground.
tsunami, is that you get that force up and it pushes that flood water or that aquifer water straight out in one big thing, because you still, like you said, it's the path of least resistance. So even if a dam broke, unless that 14-foot surge would take I think the AI said it was like a 130-foot dam or something to create in the Guadalupe River a 14-foot surge because of the path of least resistance. Like, you just wouldn't get that because you couldn't even get it. I mean, it pretty much debunked a 14-foot surge from like a bunch of trees that were bound together that broke apart. I mean, it debunked that one quick.
And also, I see some folks in the chat were wondering, so, this guy took his life. Ryan, didn't he have, five
or six
plus
kids, and I mean, a wife. He was a very strong Christian who, I'll say I believe in different types of Christians. He was the type of Christian that believed that, like, if you, from what I understand, if you believed that you committed suicide or you took your own life, that you did not enter into the gates of heaven, if you will. That's the kind of Christian that from what I understand, he is, or he was. And that right there, there's a lot of things about him. He's the kind of guy that even through all this, he was giving everybody hugs. Like, if you talked to him down by the river and he saw you while you were searching or doing whatever, and he saw that you're having a hard time, he prayed over you. It doesn't make sense that he passed. However, the day that he passed, he passed, is the day that the Texas Rangers filed the paperwork in to start an investigation into the actual flood itself.
A criminal investigation.
A criminal investigation into the flood itself. That's another area where I'm filing those open records, the Oprahs, for.
How do you file a criminal investigation for a natural disaster?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, though. Is because there's no information about there's no information about the investigation, if you will.
So
that's what I'm trying to figure out, is where the believe are they, like, what are they like? Because
I'll just say it because I've spoken to people there, on the ground as well, when talking about how can I get some of my boys' things back, etc., or why the camp that they were at bulldozed the cabins down, for instance, that Brock was in within 36 hours of the floodwaters clearing. People said, well, if there's no evidence left, then it makes it harder to prosecute. So when you speak to the criminal thing, I'll just say real fast that when you speak to the criminal thing, I think it's discussing the idea or centering on the idea of negligence or intentional willfulness to just look the other way and not do things that were supposed to be done.
Can you tell me about the NDAs and the secrecy around some of the inspectors and stuff?
So there were divers. So the big thing is that there were divers within that I know from, well, I'm friends with now, who signed NDAs to dive upriver of Mystic and pulled over 150 bodies out of the river. Men, women, and children. Apparently they were being trafficked from a ranch up there. That's about as much as I will talk about that for my safety, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, no, they're the death toll, we talk about 119 in our community because we have to have a symbol for what happened. We need that number symbol because that's how humans work. We all know within this community, almost all of us who are awake, I guess you could say, we know the numbers astronomically higher than that. And they just don't disclose it. I mean, 3 bodies were found. Let's see, we're in, what is it? It's almost July shit. Okay, so we've got in early April, there were 3 bodies found in the river that were never disclosed to the public. There's a lot of things that are found in the river that are not disclosed at all. They're dredging Ingram Lake, which means they've got one of those claws out there, the clams that just go down to the water, pull it out, and they take it off, and they're searching for bones and, all the stuff. Unfortunately, apparently they have now put out the word that the reason that they're still there and they're not letting us drain the lake is that they're finding so many bones that they don't want the people to have to go through it. I'm not 100% sure I believe that, because here's the thing is that, so if this theory is correct, or if this theory did happen, we'll say, then, because right now, and Kelly's seen it, is up and down the river, there are deposits. Like I was talking about where I believe Seal was, where they excavated her body. Sorry, I don't want to talk about that earlier, somebody else. When they came through and they excavated with a large cypress tree and cleared out 3-foot waves of river rock, because they needed to use ground penetrating radar. One, they didn't know what the frick they were talking about, because that's not how it worked. But 2, these rocks, these 3-foot swells, we'll call them, that were miles long, that you could have filled up thousands of, that they did fill up thousands of dump trucks with. They were never there on the river before. So if this theory's true, and when that creek bed, I'm sorry, my camera sucks, angle. When that creek bed bowed up, it's going to, and then all that pressure built up in that karstic and that aquifer system. Oh, what's the best analogy I have? It's going to diarrhea, or it's going to throw up rocks out of these springs. Out of these breaks, these rocks are going to have to get pushed somewhere because it's filled up with rocks. They are up and down the river, and there's not a single local that I can find that gives me a logical, scientific reasoning behind it. After the flood, everyone was like, "Oh, they were just under the ground, and it washed all the soil off of them." That's not how the ground works out here. You don't just have these rocks that have never been touched by air randomly all of a sudden not dirty and perfectly clean sitting on the side of the river. Rocks that have been mixed with mud, they're going to be, especially limestone, because like we were talking about, that's very porous, it's very malleable, it absorbs very, very well. You can't have these rocks underneath water for thousands of years, or underneath mud for thousands of years, and be like, "Oh yeah, now they're just perfectly clean because the flood came through." That's not a logical way.
How does that happen?
How does what happen?
Those rocks come up like that.
So So if this theory is correct, it would be the force of that. So the force of the pockets of water and air under the ground, as they get pressed in because the ground's collapsing, it's pushing them out. And that's what, and that would help with that 14-foot surge. That would be an extra amount of pressure, because you then have a solid pressing up out as well with the water. So you're then creating a much better formation, if you will. I don't know what the word is on that. Hydraulically, I don't even know what it would be to create that 14-foot surge.
So Ryan, I have a question. Oh, go.
You have a question?
Okay. Yeah, I do have a question. So were you saying, is it the Edwards Aquifer that feeds in there, or is this a different?
Aquifer and the Trinity, they do overlap. They have areas, from what I understand from my mapping and all that they have overlap spots, because you've got multiple tectonic plates there. You've got a few tectonic plates within this region. You've got multiple aquifer systems throughout. The Santa Rita runs through all of these. we've got a very, like, Texas is a very and that was why putting this report together, it was making sure that it was digestible,
So
because when it made
the
it the
reason
first
why
time, I didn't even know what I was reading, to be honest with you.
yeah, so the reason why I ask is because, you know, there were a few weeks after the flood, it was about a month or a little bit after, there was a news story done saying that the Edwards Aquifer Authority was tightening the pumping restrictions because groundwater levels were about 29 feet below average and still dropping. Um, and so basically, they were saying they saw very little impact to their groundwater levels, and the rain was so heavily concentrated over the Guadalupe that all of the water flowed downstream, and you know, none of it seeped into the Edwards aquifer. And so they were still doing water restrictions, things like that. I'm just wondering if, I mean, that kind of plays into
So,
your theory or plays against your theory.
so if you look over, so the Guadalupe River from Hunt, Texas, or up to the mouth down to Canyon Lake, where it spills into, it's the what do you call it, the where you hold water, the reservoir. It's a reservoir. There you go. Reservoir that was built to hold the water from the Guadalupe for water sources through the cities in that area, or the towns in that area, and all that. It's no longer holding water. It's losing. Even when we get these, I mean, they can say we're in a flood. That's horseshit. We get a lot. We've got a significant amount of rain in the last year compared to any other years that I've been out here. And they're saying that we're in this horrible drought, that these waters are down. All the springs, all of everything that you go onto ranches looking at, say a different story. We're not in a huge drought. However, Canyon Lake is losing 1.5 million gallons a day. This helps this argument in that way, because a lot of their aquifer systems throughout all of this make it to that. And they make it to Canyon Lake. And so if they had a bust in one of the springs that was keeping pressure up into that into the reservoir, and let's say that pressurization pocket busted, what can happen then? Now the 1.5 million gallons a day has an exit hole in that lake, or in that reservoir. Is that what's happening? I don't know, but there's a lot of other people that are very vocal about this stuff who have really started speaking out, because I mean, if we start pumping treated water from our treatment system, that's, you know, that's poop water, we treat it, and then we start pumping it into a creek that goes back into the Guadalupe River, that just doesn't affect, you know, Kerrville citizens. It doesn't just affect people who are swimming or fish. That affects the whole aquifer system down, because now you're creating those TTHMs, and now you're dumping them straight into the organic water again. So it's like dumping chlorine water from your hot tub into the river and hoping that the reaction's good.
So we're talking a lot about underground massive explosions. If that were the case, and if there were some kind of tsunami, if there were all this seismic activity, shouldn't we expect to see that in seismic data?
So, did I put the seismic stuff into your report?
You did. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, good. I'm glad you're going through it, because I'm ADHD, as you know what.
All three.
So we went through, and I it's my superpower, except on a podcast. So if we triangulated all of the, so there's the three closest seismic reading centers, I don't know, whatever you call it, that we have to us are Del Rio, Brady, and one other one. And they all, if you triangulate all of their signals, it doesn't show anything that's outside of baseline. However, within the, golly, what was it? Oh, God. I believe it was in the earthquakes. Where were those earthquakes? There were earthquakes somewhere where that what they didn't realize, because there was so much
The
damage
2020
from
Storm Alex in
what was
France.
it?
2020 Storm Alex
Was that what it was? And there was
in
those
France.
they were micro
Micro earthquakes.
yes, and that you couldn't unless you took there's a puppy on the screen. Look at that. Hi, puppy. Unless you take the baselines and put them together, but then you have to there is a way that they can do it. This one's way out of my descriptive abilities, but the University of Texas at Austin has the ability and the data to take all of the background. So it's the background noise, if you will. And there's a way for them to compute them and put that together to see if there were smaller events than what would be considered an earthquake, if you will. That's something where I would have to request some serious people to do something, because it's never been done for this. Nobody's even talking about it. But the problem is without this doing it, there's no way to discredit any of this stuff without it, because 900. There you go. I just found that number. 4 a.m. It was 120. It was 125,000 gallons a second. And at 5 a.m., it was 950,000 gallons a second. That right there, if you do the math, and I thought I had that on there, but I didn't see it anywhere. Maybe it's on one of my other things.
So
but if you do the
what
math,
I
all of
remember,
the different, how much rain that would be based off the amount of acreage and all of that, there's no way that cubic footage or that gallons per second is going to match up with that much rain.
mm-hmm.
That math didn't math, if you will.
So the seismic data, though, for what I remember and what I see in the report here is the claim it makes is that there's no seismic data consistent with earthquake, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there was no earthquake, because there is at least one example where there were some micro earthquakes from within a flood, and it wasn't in the data, but there's a special technique you can do to get it from that data, but that technique has not been applied to our data.
This has not been applied, ever even talked about. And that's kind of the problem, is that all of these things that we're talking about, like these reports, all of it is something that our city council could easily just address with us, or the state could address, but they're squashing it.
And that was a common theme in this report, specifically at the end, like official statement inconsistencies. The mayor didn't really do much. The city manager didn't do much. Emergency management coordinator is on the list as well. I don't want to just start calling everyone out, but
they deserve to be called out. They were sleeping on the job, they were on vacation, or they were not answering their phones. They were nowhere to be found.
Here's the thing is, when it comes to from 1 a.m. till 6 a.m, there are people who are paid to, yes, be awake. However, there are people who are, yes, paid to represent us, and they're not paid to be awake at 5 a.m. because there's a flash flood warning, or you know what I'm saying, or a watch, not even a warning, just a watch. I do have, I don't say it's empathy, I do give them a little bit of grace on some of that. Some of them I do give grace to. Am I the kind of person that normally would on this? No, but I will, only because it's like, if you're the mayor of a town and every time there's a flash flood warning, you're like, shit, I got to stay up all night. I don't think anybody would run for mayor. I think there's a point where everybody be like, forget this shit. Like, I want to sleep.
There's a lot of nuisance flood warnings.
Yeah, and there's a lot. I mean, we get them all the time now, especially. So,
Ryan,
but I do agree, though,
this was
that they have
different.
sucked. What's that?
This was different because this was a holiday weekend, and they had to know that the population of Kerr County probably, I don't know, doubled, tripled. I'm sure there's some statistic out there.
I'm not gonna.
It was like the Super Bowl of this area.
I'm not letting them off the hook for anything, but I am giving them grace on a little bit of. I slept till 9:30 in the morning that night. I mean, like, I can't sit there and be like, you guys suck because you slept. No, I mean, if you didn't live in West Kerr, way out there where the storm was, it didn't wake you up.
But it also was not your responsibility to, I mean, for these people, it is their responsibility.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here, Kelly. If I were to call you at 4 a.m. and it wasn't a night owl night and you weren't up till 4 a.m. as you are sometimes, if you went to bed at 12 at midnight and I were to call you 10 times at 4 a.m., if you have your phone on vibrate, are you going to hear that?
Yes, because my phone is, if I take the time, first of all, if I take the time to actually put my phone on silent, do not disturb. I think if you call multiple times, it does ring out loud, first of all.
I think it's like 3 times within 2 minutes or something like that. Or something
yeah. Secondly, if there's a storm, I say this, like, if I'm responsible for my 2 kids, you better believe I'm waking up when I'm hearing this, crazy thunder. If I'm responsible for 200 or 400 kids or whatever, I'm not going to sleep. Okay. And then if I'm responsible for 20,000 people or 40,000 people, no, I'm going to be on watch. And if I'm not, I'm going to make sure that I have a tree of other people who are doing the job too.
So, but here's the thing, though, is you have to remember, we've gotten 8 inches of rain before in a very short amount of time. And it doesn't look anything close to this to where it even like necessitates too much of a emergency declaration of me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure, but like I said, I'm not water. There are low water crossings. There are bridges. There are things, and so like somebody's got to be on guard.
Yeah, well, there were people. There were sheriffs set up. There were all this. The problem is that they lied after the fact instead of owning up to their shit and being like, dude, I was on vacation. Like, I have an assistant. I have all these, the emergency management person on call, all these things. They lied. And that's where they lose their credibility of what else was happening, is because it wasn't about their actions in that 4-hour period. If people fall asleep and they don't wake up, at least I am not going to judge them for that, because from 1 to 4 is my sacred time. That you can't, I'm not going to judge them for that, but I'm going to judge them for all their lies about everything else. That's my big thing.
And let's just remember, you guys, Ryan does have to live around all of these folks. Okay, so we're going to give him grace for that. I don't live around them, so I will say they were wrong.
I'll call Rob Kelly out. I'll call the mayor out.
So many people down.
I'll jump back in, though. As a apartment maintenance guy, hotel maintenance guy, general maintenance guy with the company now where I'm technically on call, I have an on-call phone, and it rings sometimes and I have to go in the middle of the night. If it rings, I answer the phone. So I'll say that.
Yeah. Yep. And then I guess there's the other, and I'm still, like I'm saying, I'll play devil's advocate for both sides, because I'm still not giving them all the grace on the planet, but I'm giving them a little bit for 1 to 5. It was July 3rd. I mean, these guys are from Kerr County. I have a feeling they may have had 3 to 4 fingers of whiskey throughout the night, maybe. I mean, you're sleeping pretty soundly after a couple fingers of some whiskey. So,
Not
like,
when you're on call.
but the
That's
thing is,
right.
like, I mean, but how
Should
much
be.
on call are they just because of it being a flash flood warning? Because we have flash flood warnings all the time.
The
And that's
It
where
was
it's like,
enough.
management coordinator.
You guys, it was enough for there to be a conference call webinar thing with the National Weather Service, okay, in advance of the storm. And did Kerr County show up for said call? Nope.
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's
Did-
I'm not giving them grace.
Did
I'm just saying from 1
Kerrville's
to
mayor
5.
show up? No, or excuse me, city manager, isn't it mayor or city manager? Sorry, or both.
The city manager, our city manager is really the one who runs everything. Our mayor is the corrupt one who just likes to like make laws that benefit rich people.
Anyway, I don't think they showed up either for this national weather. So there are emails that show that this was received and opened by them, whatever. They didn't show up ahead of time either.
But
They
were
literally
sending
dropped
text
the ball.
messages- They were sending text messages about Kristi Noem being basically Homeland Barbie.
Thank you.
Yeah, I found that one funny.
I mean, look,
her
I know
cheeks do
it
look
feels
kinda
like
fake
small
sometimes.
town, but the reality is, you know, they were responsible for doing their job, and people, you know, would think that they were doing their job, especially on such a high profile holiday weekend when they were
still,
put on alert.
I still go with 2. I will, and this isn't like justifying their inactions, but from
Yeah.
1 to 5, really, with all of the, I mean, because they told us that. So I don't know if you saw this report that came out too. They were saying how they had put in search and rescue teams in the county already to prepare us for the flood. Guess how many people were on that team? 6. 6 people.
Mm.
6 total human beings were in the county on the other side of the county from Hunt the night of the flood. The ones that were sent here for emergency management. We only had 6 people. So the state falls on this a lot right here too, because
Yeah,
they're the ones that are
totally.
supposed to, when this is in this situation, it's not like our fire department, our EMS, or any of those people doing search and rescue or first response in that way. That's the state. They're the ones who are supposed to, within that kind of situation, send people out. And that's why it's like, I can't, I don't, like I said, I'm not justifying what our Congress or county people have done, because they sold out water rights. They've sold, I mean, they're trying to do, I'm not justifying anything with them. I'm just saying from 1 to 5 in the morning, man, I have a hard time being mad at anybody because they didn't pick up the phone. Like,
Man.
that pocket of it, I have a harder time. That's it.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, but they had a job, they get paid to do a job, and you know, if you don't want to do it, go kick rocks.
Yeah.
I want to bring it to one last topic that's really related, and then we're going to go to audience questions and kind of wrap up for the night. Early warning system.
We're not going till 3 in the morning?
No, good for you.
Sorry.
So the early warning systems, what I remember from reading the report is they had installed some type of flash flood warning system in the river, but it wasn't maintained and it didn't work. Can you tell me about that?
No. Okay. So we now have one in that they're installing at this point. I haven't seen the effectiveness of it, any of that. I do believe they're doing test sirens now, or they're doing testing on it and all that. But no, what happened was in 2016, we had a flood on the Blanco River. Blanco River. I don't know. It's about 60 something miles from us about. The Blanco River had a tremendously horrible flood, and a young girl went missing during the flood and has never been recovered. She's the seal steward of the Blanco River flood. And at that point is when they started making a big deal within state legislation about getting warning systems within these rivers that are within flash flood alley. Blanco River falls within that system because of the hills around it in that way. At least it falls within that description, if you will. They tried to, the state, it was supposed to be passed multiple times, and the state never passed they never got funding for it. They were never able to get it passed. And after time, it just kind of fell through the cracks. The city and the county never applied for funding for it, and they just let this kind of just end up being where we're at right now. And it took, 119 people documented dying for them to finally go, oh, we probably should have done that. And that's where this isn't, Camp Mystic, it breaks my heart to see what they're doing to them right now. It really, really does. See what they're filing against the camp with all the lawsuits. Camp Mystic filed yesterday for bankruptcy, Chapter 11, so that they could do reorganization. It would stop some of the lawsuit stuff, and it would give them time to figure out what they're going to do. But they don't deserve, it happened at their camp. But Kelly's kids were at Camp La Junta. If they would have been, I don't know, half a mile farther upriver, just a mile, half a mile upriver. If you go up to like Baldwin Road, or not Baldwin Road, if you go up to right up from them where they're at, because it's a pinch point and it bottlenecks right there just a little bit. That water would have been about 8 feet higher there than it was where Kelly's boys were at. If they would have been there, I would have never met Kelly's boys. I would have never met, it would have been a totally different situation. And that's over an hour. It's over an hour and a half almost that it took that water surge that was at Mystic for it to get to La Junta. And La Junta still didn't have those boys out of that cabin.
It's unacceptable.
Yeah. And they were all trying, but they were at Mystic. They were trying to get them out there, trying to figure it out. But all of a sudden, a 14-foot surge hangs and comes in. They've never seen that before. And the Eastlands, they're descendants of the owners of that place since 1939 or 1929, I believe it is. Or no, sorry, 39. And we know this river. What you do first when it starts flooding, you go, oh, go get the kayaks by the river so they don't float away. And then as it starts coming up slowly, you go, hey, all right, girls, hey, we got to wake up. We got to get up the hill. It's not like a stressful situation. It's like hey, we got to take precautions. This turned in from all of a sudden, hey, grab the kayaks to, pardon my French, but holy fuck, what's going on right now? That's literally, it went from one to the other. I've talked to the security guard from Mystic. I've talked to people that were right there that lived upriver, that lived right next to it on the river.
It wasn't a flood, it was a tsunami.
They go, there's no way to plan for this because you've never seen it before. Hey, honey, go get the kayaks. The people I was just with a friend of mine and her sister who owned property in Ingram, on Ingram Lake. And they were out there trying to gather their picnic benches. And he goes, I was standing in an inch of water. And he goes, before I could get the picnic bench up this 8-foot incline up to the road, he goes, I was standing at my waist deep. He goes,
this was a 1 in 500 year flood, maybe a 1 in 1,000 year flood.
No, it's an unprecedented, impossible to recreate flood. And this is, at least from my perspective, how I would say to anybody, it is a flood that if they said, hey, let's go grab those planes, let's go fly over Kerr County for 2 weeks straight, dump all the barium and all of the things that we can on them, and then go, let's redo this flood, they couldn't do it again unless they completely pressurize that aquifer system again, I don't think. Because you could not get a runoff that's going to create a 14-foot surge that's going to take a camp out in the middle of the night in the way that this did. I would love to see a simulation that could be yeah, we're going to recreate this again. I'd love to see one because I don't think it's possible. I really don't.
My question is, if they had a warning system at the river that sounded sirens or something, would that have saved lives? Or how many would that have saved?
With a warning system like that, with the sirens that we have, I have Apparently, they made them strong enough to withhold to be able to be out of the way of a cypress tree taking them out. That was my big worry. Is that a 100-foot cypress tree that's 12 foot in girth and has a root ball on it that is 18 feet wide, that's going to take out any pole in its way. Apparently, they have them situated where that's not the issue. Would they have saved lives at Camp Mystic? I hate to say this because it feels weird saying it, but I don't think so. I really do not believe that it would have saved their lives that it may have helped. It may have began a different process. It may have saved Dick Eastland's life. But at Camp Mystic, I don't think it would have there. In Ingram and at Camp La Junta, yes, it would have been effective. At Camp Mystic, I do not believe it would have been that effective because you couldn't have seen the surge coming. And there wouldn't have been I don't think there would have been an alarm that could have given them enough time to get those girls out because of how it manifested and how it got created.
Okay, Ryan, I'm going to push back on you on that one too. Was it Rio Vista? What was the camp that proactively evacuated that night? Maybe at 11:45 or before 1 a.m.
So camp like Rio Vista, Heart of the Hills, all of the camps really were on the South Fork. Only Camp Mystic and Camp La Junta were in session on the South Fork.
No. This camp was in session and they bust people away. So I might have said the wrong name by saying Rio Vista, but they literally
but on the South Fork though, there was only one camp in session because everyone else was out of session. It was not in time and set. Like Rio Vista did not have kids in. They don't do 4th of July. They don't do a 4th of July.
That's what I'm saying. Hold on. I'll pull up the name of the camp. But there was another camp.
Like I know like camps like upriver on the north part of the river, on the North Fork, I know that they did some proactive stuff and got people up out of there.
And what information
regardless of what fork. I mean, I'm not talking about the fork at that point. We're talking about like a mile or so apart. Okay?
No, but here's the thing is that they're
two apart, whatever, like very close.
But the thing is the water coming down the North Fork and the water that came down the South Fork were two different flow rates.
Okay, but
because they merge and hunt, and one was the South Fork flow rate was multiple times higher, even though it was still significant there. It was multiple times higher.
But she's saying that they evacuated 11:45, 1 a.m.
proactively.
What information were they acting on?
That's what I would like to know too, is because
hold on. Let me finish. Okay. What information were they acting on, and what influenced their decision-making structure so that they seem to have done the right thing?
That's where I need to figure out what camp this is, because from what everything, I'm under the assumption of like I'm going down every camp on the South Fork, and they were all closed. But the North Fork, if they were on the North Fork, so camp.
I'll pull it up in just a second, but regardless of the fork of the river, it was one of the camps that was in that area. I think it was Rio Vista, but I'll get the exact name. Regardless, they, as it's raining, they heeded the warnings that were out there, even though they weren't forced to evacuate, but they were proactive.
And that's a difference of just. I think that's a difference of management right there. I think that's just purely somebody who runs a camp who and it depends on what camp it is too, because here's the thing is if you're a camp who is on either fork, well, F the forks, we'll call it, is if you're on either one of those forks and a rain is coming and you have cabins more susceptible to being within the floodplain or closer to it, then maybe you're going to be more proactive. But I mean, throughout all the floods in history, it's like the Camp Mystic, those cabins have never been flooded. They've never even been close to them. And that's why it's hard for me to sit there and go, Dick Eastland should have immediately been like, oh, the water's rising. I got to get kids out of here when normally it
Sure.
wouldn't have been that. Oh,
Let's go ahead and wait and see if we can find the camp, and then I'm going to go ahead and start reading some questions here in the meantime. From I think the very beginning of the stream, we're kind of going back in time here. Lauren says, "I thought you thought I met Kelly on a reenactment of one of your pew pew videos of Charlie. I don't think so. Kelly has never joined me in person on any one of those streams, but it might appear as though we did." GCL says, "I'm so glad they will arrest people for touching the water at the reflecting pool, but not laundering our tax dollars." And there's another angle on that as well, with the apparent vandalism that Trump has done to many of these lawns. Yeah.
I think that.
Sorry, my daughter's
interesting.
iPad kicked me out because I was above her screen time apparently. So I'm just getting back to hearing what y'all are talking about. Sorry.
So the White House, the I forget what it's called, the circle field, Kelly. I think you posted a video or a photo of it.
Oh yes,
That looks absolutely
ellipsis
terrible. So
or whatever they call it. Yes.
ellipsis, yeah. So there's a lot of vandalism going around, but we're not sure if any of that is at the reflecting pool.
Did you find what camp it was, Kelly?
I did. Yes, it was Mo Ranch.
Oh, okay.
And
That's way okay.
Yep.
With Mo Ranch, they've got a lot of tributaries coming into it, which may have been their bigger reason for worry based off of where they're at. They've got like where they sit. I can see why they may have taken a different, more preemptive proaction on doing this because of where they sit and how those tributaries fall into the water around there. But they're way up on the North Fork. Honestly, where they're at, like they did a very good thing by being proactive. However, the flooding there definitely did not have the same distinctive impact on the river or the landscape around them.
And all of that is a good thing, right?
Oh, 100%. No, 100%.
Ultimately,
but I think we talked about this last time too, is that, they talk about right now how we need more regulations on, the camp's emergency protocols, if you will.
Kelly, it's a subscription. God fucking damn it. This thing you sent me, the San Antonio Express News. It's
gosh. Okay, hold on. Let me search and see if I can find a different one to send.
Can you screenshot it? I think we lost you.
Okay. I think my freeze up.
I can hear you, but your video froze.
Yeah, you look like you're staring at the computer very, very intensely.
Hold on. Okay.
Now you're back.
Is it working out?
Fine.
Yeah. Sorry. I can't. Sorry. I can't do too many things on this computer in its current state. But if you're able, Jordan, to search just Mo Ranch evacuation July 4th, you might be able to. There is a Fox News article as well.
There's a Reddit article. AP News, KFOR, San Antonio.
I think the other one.
Let me switch this on.
But I want to reiterate.
In the meantime, I'll kind of read.
But I want to reiterate this to Kelly real quick, though. Like when I say I give grace to the camps, I give it to camp to Mystic more than I give it to I don't give it to La Junta in the way of like what your boys went through, because they had over an hour of time difference to like make decisions, understand what's going on, and Scott could have easily have made it down to the river by then, but he had. So I just want you to know that I'm not, when I say I have that little bit of grace for them, that's for the Mystic, that's for the Eastlands, because they had no time to react. They really went from grab some kayaks to where the kids within a split, within a moment's notice.
Yeah, and I don't have, within an hour or hour and a half, notice, and that time, no doubt, goes fast when you're scrambling and trying to figure out what to do, what's going on. It's pouring rain. It's crazy. but I remember first reading, I think it was the account in the New York Times, and saying to myself, wow, must have been nice to have adults, way up and evacuating kids at 2:45 in the morning, or whatever time it was, 1:45 in the morning, because that was not happening at Camp La Junta.
That's what I'm saying with the other thing that we're dealing with, Kelly. If when you have the right people in charge, when you have the right guy come out to look at your AC or whatever, when
Yeah.
when it's an adult who's there and knows what they're doing, you don't hear about it
Yeah.
because there's no drama. Like
Yeah.
you can't always solve the problem immediately, like at Mystic, but when you have the right people in charge, when you have adults in charge, there are warning signs that you can see, and you can act on those warning signs accurately. And maybe 5 times out of 6, it's a false alarm, and everyone has to go back, and it was nothing. But sometimes it saves lives.
Yep. So if we want to just kind of go through real quick
Yeah,
for the sake
I have
of,
this
since I brought up,
AP News. I have this AP News article pulled up.
you be the mediator since
What?
Jordan. I said you can be the mediator, Jordan, and recount what had happened according to this AP article.
All right. So for people listening only, it says it was about 1 a.m. on the 4th of July when the facilities manager at a Central Texas summer camp saw water from the Guadalupe River steadily rising amid a deluge of rain. Geraldo Barrera notified his boss, who had been monitoring reports of the storms approaching Presbyterian Mo Ranch Assembly, a recreation destination where an intercultural youth conference had been called off early, just hours earlier. Despite an absence of warning by local authorities, camp officials acted quickly on their own, relocating about 70 children and adults staying overnight in a building near the river. With the kids safe, camp leaders were able to avoid the catastrophe that hit at least one other camp near Hunt, where the 500-acre ranch was located. Lisa Winter says they helped them pack up, and she's the communications director for Mo Ranch. So what she said was they helped them pack up, they got them up, they got them out, put them up on higher ground. End quote. So it seems like they saw the river steadily rising, and they said, maybe we should move.
Yep. There's a quote. It goes on to say, Winters told the AP that Mo Ranch received no direct information from county officials about flooding that could and did take lives. Quote, we had no warning this was coming, Winters said, adding that it would have been, quote, devastating had camp officials not been looking at weather reports and the rising river waters. Mo Ranch, quote, saw it coming well in advance and they did something about it, she said. So, I mean,
that's the big thing.
I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
That's I think another part of it too, is with how that camp is set up, how that whole area, how Mo Ranch is set up compared to the other camps too. It's a lot more of like an event center as well. And so I can see how they were able to execute something like this much better than a camp. However, it does fall on, like they're talking about in this article, falls on the county though. They should have been notified that this shit was happening a lot damn earlier than this.
Hold on. So the article said that they were relying not on like official warnings. They were just looking at the weather, and it only took one person to watch the weather and monitor the situation, and then they informed their superior, and everything went right from there. Why couldn't there be one person at some of these other camps doing the right thing?
Well, and that's where, I think all the way around, there's, they're now, making them write their emergency plans and all that. But it's like I said I think I said this last time I was on here, you can write an emergency plan, but when you've got 18-year-old girls who are going to be part of a what's it called, an emergency operation command. That's going to, like, no matter how many times you practice it, if it's lightning and thundering and raining in your face, it's going to be hard for anybody to execute it, even an adult male, a lot of times. And that's where it's like, it's like we've, all of these things we're putting into place. Yes, they are wonderful and they're very needed. Are they going to stop every death from here on out at a camp from a flood? No. And that's something that we have to understand, is that they're not going to always, for, one regulation, one change in something isn't going to change a death forever, or it's not going to change every death in the future. But it is at least something that is another point to make it to where it's less susceptible to happen again.
I think that 18-year-old women can be pretty.
Oh, I'm
strong.
not discrediting them, but I'm telling you, like, as somebody who's been in some situations, when you get into lightning, thunder, when you get into these situations, it's yes, instincts kicks in, but at the same time, talking on your walkie-talkie and saying, remembering the code words for what it means or whatever it is that you've practiced, that goes out the window.
We're just everyone.
All of that practice goes out the window.
Where everyone get out of their cabin and run to higher ground is all it should take.
Well, that's where they need. They need better emergency systems within the camps, within the cabins. I don't think there's a one size fits all for what they should look like. I think each camp, based off of the demographics of the people that are there, the geology of the area, all of those things should be put into account of what theirs looks like, because all of these camps, like Mo Ranch, is so different than what Mystic looks like. Mystic is a lot different than what La Junta looks like. La Junta, sorry, whatever it is. They're all a little different, and so they're all going to look different. But at the same time, for us to believe that putting in a better emergency plan, putting in like a perfect emergency plan is going to save lives forever, it's not. And that's just the hard truth of it. And so, it looks like we're looking for a blanket solution where all it is that we can just try to make this as safe as possible and hope that whatever happened underneath the ground or possibly happened underneath the ground doesn't happen again. I think that's really where it's at. This could happen one more time in 100 years, but that's going to be our great grandkids that are around. At that point, they're not going to remember that there was a 14-foot surge and that the ground possibly collapsed. So they're just going to go, once again, 100 years later, they're just going to go grab their kayaks and they're going to walk them up, or whatever they're flying in 100 years. They're going to go grab those things and take them from the river. It's like the human memory. We don't even remember the Epstein files from 4 months ago. And we're talking about things that don't matter in this world, but we forget that human cloning is going on. Like, humans are very quick to forget in general. Mm-hmm. And so it's like we can put all these things into place, but anytime that you have an event that is natural and a natural event that's not natural, things unfortunately like this are going to happen. I truly believe. I really do. And that doesn't take, like I said, I'm not taking away from all the shit that camps didn't do right. Mystic was not perfect. Mystic was far from perfect in their response. But at the same time, as somebody who's lived through some floods and gone through some of this stuff, it's hard for me to sit there and just be so angry at them. Like you see as you see on the news, as you see in that way, I can't hold that anger. I can't hold that distrust of, the kids should never go back there again. Because, I think if anything too, we learned a lesson here. And that, if we get an alarm on our phone, we probably should pay attention to it. We should probably now, like you said, have somebody that stays up all night hitting refresh on their Doppler radar. We now see that things can manifest in a way that we didn't know that they could manifest before. But we also got to figure out what caused this size of a situation so that this shit doesn't happen again too. And that's why it's like figuring out, I got to file all these Oprahs so that we can get open records on all these things. I use the word Oprah. I know. I saw that laugh, Kelly. But yeah, I got to file these because that's the one way. Because if these reports don't exist, they have to, by law, tell us why they don't exist. where they're at, all of the things behind it. And that's what we need to know. If they don't exist and they say they can't because the water treatment system's done, I'm looking right now at all of my AI stuff, and all the stuff, like half of the stuff is reported every 15 minutes, and it's saved in sounds like it's describing a cloud database. So I don't think it's not it not being there. I think it's that they don't want us to have it.
Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and get to some audience questions, and then let's wrap up. Yankee, I think this was a YouTube comment. I don't want to switch topics too violently here, but I think that was a natural stopping point there. This was a comment on the YouTube video, I think. I guess they're casting a new Silence of the Lambs film.
Silence of the Clams?
I suppose so.
I mean, I've got a lot of jokes, but I mean, I'm confused, but all right.
Same person says, no, Kelly's been on TV quite a few times, especially for the floods before yesterday. Quite a few times.
Yep.
Tiny says they usually use a multi-pronged approach. I don't know what that's in reference to. Do you remember?
So yes. So that was referring to kind of our conversation, also incorporating the cloud seeding and some of the other things. And I had started that because it made me think about the Charlie Kirk case and how there are multiple things out there that, pique our interest of, oh, could it be this? Oh, could it be that? Oh, but we're going to go down this rabbit hole and that rabbit hole. Yeah, it seems like some of the best, or worst rather, incidents involve multi-pronged approaches.
Lots of distractions like exploding microphone theory. Same person says, so was this a natural occurrence that caused the collapse, or was it due to the alkalinity situation and the T effect?
Tectonic effect, maybe.
Tectonic effect.
So I mean, natural in the way that the rain is. I mean, I don't even know how to answer that because, I mean, there's two aspects of it where it's like an aquifer system is a natural system, and rain is a natural part of nature. However, they did cloud seed it, so that's not 100% the most natural rain you could have. And also, the tsunami effect is from an unnatural way of in filling up an aquifer system. So was it natural? Yes, but was it a natural occurrence? Maybe I don't think so in that way because it. I do believe that there were two different things that created a natural event to be supernatural.
It sounds like there were a lot of different factors all coming together. Some of them natural, some of them not.
The perfect storm, if you will, yeah.
Ruby says, or I think they're talking to someone else, but they say, can the guest answer my question? What is the end game? What is their goal by causing these disasters?
Okay. I mean, obviously, my personal opinion on this one, water rights, I believe, with some of the large ranch owners in this county, the Bass family. Lee Bass and all of his brothers are very known for a lot of things that we don't need to get into yet because it's a whole other episode. But I believe it's water rights, and I believe it's for that land. I believe it's now for the mystic land. Biblically, we're also in the end times, and it's just chaos is ensuing in every way possible, I believe.
But we're not endorsing or making any criminal allegations or really any allegations.
Like I said the whole time, this is all based off of questions.
Allegedly.
Yeah, I'm just asking questions. And I'll say a few things, but
yeah. Cool Pigeon says they refused free money for a warning system. That's not negligence. That is a choice. Someone made that call.
Mm-hmm.
Then one final question here that's highlighted from Jack. He asks, so are you saying it seemed the storm was manipulated to be worse?
100%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they admitted to it. They're not admitting to the manipulation with frequency usage, but they openly talked about it on national media that they were here and that there's no way that they could have caused this size of a disaster. So either they're lying or somebody's lying because somehow we got that much rain and it's never been done like that before. So,
well, we definitely appreciate you coming back on, sir.
absolutely. I'm just glad it's 12:20 at night. I'm about to go to bed, and I'm not gonna
Not 3:20
I gotta
or
give it 6:30 to go dive the Ingram Lake. So yeah, I've got an earlier night tonight.
Well, I think it was a great show. We really appreciate having you on.
Absolutely, guys. Thank y'all for having me. And anytime if anything comes up, I'll let you know, and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Keep up the great work out there, and hopefully we will see you soon. I don't know. I need to figure out.
Got cut out there, but yeah, tell the boys I said hello.
I will. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up out there for the 4th.
Uh-oh.
Who knows?
Don't threaten us.
You'll have to tell me what's going on.
Yeah, amen. All right.
All right, bye. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Absolutely, I'll be good. You sign me out. I don't know how to do this.
Oh. I think we double clicked it. I was going to read a comment here that was off topic, but I think this is something you would like to respond to, Kelly.
Oh, okay. From Cool Pigeon 98. Think about it. If Charlie is alive, he's still solving crimes. If he's dead, the machine keeps running. Which is more useful to them? Oh man, I don't know if I have the energy to respond to this one, Jordan, but did Charlie really solve crimes?
Not really, no.
Or did he just participate in the machine?
I think he participated in the machine.
That's what I would say, Cool
But
Pigeon.
just the reason I brought this up, though, was because it speaks to some of the stuff that you've talked about with if they take Charlie out, the machine TPUSA continues running.
That's right. Sure does. And it is my opinion that TPUSA is an op, a money laundering, data gathering, political influencing operation. That is my opinion. That is what my research and data shows.
Emily says, I've been really digging into a lot for the last 15 years. I don't believe in coincidence. There are too many dots that connect and patterns that match. All right. Any closing thoughts, Kelly?
You know, there's that was super interesting to hear from Ryan. And as you can see, even though we both consider ourselves to be advocates on the flood issue, we don't necessarily see eye to eye on everything. And I think that's healthy, right? It's I don't expect everyone to believe the same things that I do. And that to me is what a healthy debate and discussion looks like. So I hope that the audience was able to, appreciate, experience, enjoy that part too.
So if I'm going to summarize what we talked about tonight, it's too late, real fast before we wrap up. We showed you how big the flood was. It wasn't just a normal flash flood. It was like 100 times worse than a normal flash flood, something like that. So we got to figure out, why was it so much worse? Why was there so much more water? So we talked about the aquifer system, basically the ocean underneath the ground, and how water enters that underground ocean and how it exits that underground ocean, and how some industries have something to do with pressurizing some of those underground cavities, and how that pressurization might have caused some explosions underground, perhaps. that can cause some seismic activity, and how some of the chemicals they pump down there can also facilitate this and make it more difficult for that underground ocean to sort of breathe in and out, and how all these things could have maybe contributed to, number one, the aquifer being significantly more full than it ever has been in its past, and how that can cause more flooding and maybe cause a tsunami, which is when you have a lot of seismic activity in one spot and an upheaval of the earth, that can cause a tsunami wave, and that can cause what it really looks like happened here, which is not just flash flooding, but it looks like a tsunami wave. And so what Ryan proposes is that underground seismic activity caused by the aquifers, caused by pressurization, caused by the chemicals in the waters, could have caused seismic activity that causes effectively an underground tsunami that manifested above ground. Yep.
Whew. Well, you guys, thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate it. That was a great summary, Jordan. And you know, you can count on us to continue digging and bringing you more interesting topics. I just wanted to pull this up real quick. Narcoleptic Insomniac 68 said, "Great show. Thank you, Jordan and Kelly. I love your content. You always offer discussion on very interesting and thought-provoking topics. No wonder I have insomnia." Well, thank you again for staying up with us and for those kind words.
And,
all right. Well, you ready to call it a night, Jordan?
Sure am.
Okay. Well, thank you, friends. We are going to say goodbye for now, but make sure that you have liked, subscribed, turned on all notifications for Try and Prove It. We hope that you follow Jordan Henshaw and myself, Kelly Raybon, as well.
And subscribe to the Try and Prove It YouTube.
I think that's what I started with, but yes.
Did you?
Absolutely.
You probably did. I'm sorry.
Turn on those notifications so you make sure that you don't miss a thing.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night. Good night.